Welcome to the live surgery session where we will be demonstrating the edited video of the Coblation Adenoidectomy in a 13-year-old girl. Uh, this girl has a history of chronic mouth breathing, habitual snoring, high arched palate, and dental crowding. Her lateral nasopharyngeal X-ray suggested near grade 4 adenoid hypertrophy when she was having the peak infection. Now, after many consultations, she was taken up for endoscopic coblation adenoidectomy under general anesthesia. After induction, a boiled Davis mouth gag was applied, and both nasal cavities were decongested using ribbon gauze soaked in Adeline. The short palate was retracted with infant feeding tube catheter. A 4 mm 0-degree nasal endoscope was introduced through the right nasal cavity. The adenoid tissue was enlarged, extending up to the eustachian tube cushion, but adenoids are not obstructing the eustachian tube. At the time of the surgery, the adenoids had reduced slightly following resolution of acute infection, though adenoids were obviously enlarged when she had active infection and she had frequent infection. I am using the Precise Max Cobblator band with a setting of 9 for ablation and 4 for coagulation or cautery. I always begin from a single point rather than attacking multiple areas simultaneously. This minimizes the bleeding and allows excellent visualization throughout the procedure. One of the major advantages of the Precise Mac wand is its sharp tip and large suction channel, which provide efficient tissue removal and excellent visibility. Notice how the adenoid tissue is being ablated under continuous saline irrigation. Adequate irrigation is essential. It keeps the operative field clean, prevents lens fogging, reduces tissue charring, and prolongs the efficiency of coblation wand. Bleeding points are identified immediately and coagulated individually. Early control of every bleeder remains a clear surgical field and reduces operative time. Particular attention is paid while dissecting the adenoid tissue from the posterior lip of the eustachian tube. This is critical step. Excessive cautery or rough dissection in this region should be avoided because postoperative scarring around the tubal cushion may impair eustachian tube function. This is a very satisfying operation. The surgical fluid remains almost bloodless, as you can see, and there is minimal thermal injury, which usually translates into significantly less postoperative pain. The aim is to complete as much as surgery as possible during a single passage of nasal endoscope. Repeated insertion and withdrawal of telescope unnecessarily traumatizes the nasal mucosa. At this stage, only a thin remnant of adenoid tissue remains. There is virtually no smoke, no charring, and excellent visualization is there all the time. Thanks to the continuous irrigation by the van and with the help of my assistant who keep flushing intermittently. In my experience, the Precise Max wand performed better than the EVAC 70 wand of the Smith and Nephew coblation system for adenoid surgery because of its larger suction port. However, avoid pressing the wand tip directly against the adenoid tissue as this can block the suction opening and reduce efficiency. As I said, intermittent nasal irrigation further improves visualization. And whenever bleeding occurs, first suction the blood, identify the exact bleeding point, and then apply the coagulation precisely. Blind cauterization should always be avoided. Always keep the posterior lip of eustachian tube in under vision as to ensure complete yet safe removal of tissue. The dissection is extended towards the fossa of Rosenmuller, clearing residual lymphoid tissue while preserving the normal anatomy. You can see even the smaller bleeding points are being cauterized so that the field remain clear, and I've identified the posterior lip of the incision tube, and I'm going towards fossa of Rosenmiller. I'm doing layer by layer so that I know how much I have dissected. See, this was the last layer towards the fossa of Rosenmuller. I am coming now from lateral to medial. Lateral side you can see the depth. Medially it's less, but you can go other way around as well. So hardly there is any charring. All tissues are white, continuous irrigation, proper light, and see, I have not removed my needle endoscope so far. Now I have identified the midline on the right side, and this band require repeated cleaning. Your nursing staff should not injure the channels, should not use a sharp thing. Best is irrigation, then underwater use the ablator mode to evaporate all the remaining tissue on these channels. And you have to your nursing staff should do this repeatedly so that vein remain healthy till the last. Otherwise, I have seen blocking of vein even 5 to 10 minutes after surgery. Now right side is completed. I am going to the left side. Left side there is a deviated nasal septum. Still no issue. Negotiating carefully to the nasopharynx. Now the remaining adenoid tissue on the left side is removed under direct vision. Note that the bulk has been reduced. The band can easily reach the roof of nasopharynx, allowing complete clearance from superior to inferior. Good irrigation combined with effective suction is the key to successful coblation surgery. Notice the absence of significant bleeding, smoke or tissue charring. At this stage, the adenoid is elevated gently and separated directly from superior nasopharyngeal fascia and periosteum rather than being removed piece by piece. This produces a smoother and more anatomical dissection. Now I have identified superiorly. I am gently pushing the adenoid tissue backward and inferiorly towards the nasopharyngeal area, and now I am separating this from the periosteum. As you can see, I have identified a plane and periosteum is clearly visible. Right side, since she is almost a slightly big girl, so my vent was not reaching superiorly. Otherwise, I like to start from superior to inferior, but whatever comforts you and you are comfortable, you can do in your own way. But this is my favorite method, superior to inferior. See, small bleeding points are dealt with immediately before proceeding further. First suction, then apply the cautery after identifying the bleeding points. This disposable van costs approximately 25 to 30,000 and is generally intended for single procedure. Proper handling, continuous irrigation, efficient suction, and careful cleaning of the system significantly improve its performance throughout the operation. Now I am going towards posterior superiorly. I intend to clear left fossa of Rosenmüller as well. Never ignore even a minor bleeder. Assuming that bleeding will stop spontaneously is a poor surgical practice. Every bleeding point should be identified and controlled before concluding the procedure. Now here the bleeding is happening, but I just want to debulk it so that I have a better view about from where the bleeding is happening. But it's continuously filling, so I'm trying to coagulate. Now slightly less bleeding now. The good thing is irrigation, which is keeping the field clean. See, bleeding is less now. Now only minimum of vertical sliver of adenoid tissue is left. And from both sides of this tissue I can debulk it quickly. Since this is a edited video, the surgery may seem easy, but I know this surgery usually takes some time because vein really require repeated cleaning. Not much bleeding now. Towards the end, only the minor residual flakes of adenoid tissue remains. These are gently ablated while preserving the posterior tubal cushion and surrounding structures. One important surgical lesson is to avoid becoming excessively perfectionist, especially when the child is above the age of 7 years. In a younger child, you can think so they can recur, but chances of recurrence in 13-year-old female are very less. So I don't want to be a perfectionist here. Changing microscopic remnant may be unnecessary and it opens up new bleeding points. Once the airway is adequately cleared and hemostasis is complete, it is wiser to stop. After achieving complete hemostasis, I prefer to wait for 5 to 10 minutes before final inspection. Only after confirming a complete dry surgical field is the patient handed over for reversal of anesthesia. See, this adenoid tissue is towards left fossa of Rosenmüller. So my intuition is saying to remove it. But if you want to leave this now, you can leave. Post-operatively, I advise using steroid nasal spray for approximately 2 months to minimize residual lymphoid hypertrophy. At the age of 13 years, significant adenoid regrowth is uncommon. Recurrence is most frequently seen between 3 and 10 years of age, with the peak incidence around 7 years. Again, some bleeder has opened up in the center, which I have cauterized. So you can see more depth on the left hand side compared to right. Once you finish this on one side, you automatically know how much you have to reduce on the opposite side. But less you do insert nasal endoscope repeatedly, less are chances of forming of the synechia. Sometimes nasal mucosa is so much traumatized that lens always become bloody, especially in very young children, then it is difficult to do. When I put nasal endoscope through nose, I can directly visualize my vein tip, channels, so it's easier to manage. But when I put both endoscope and the vein through the oral cavity, I can't see the vent tip. That is a major disadvantage of doing adenoid surgery through oral cavity, and then you have to go from inferior to superior, which is being popularized by many these days. But I like superior to inferior because I'm directly seeing the vent where it is working. I can go from above downward. So both technique have advantage, disadvantage, but you do whatever with way you are comfortable. Now I have come on the right hand side. I know this side some adenoid tissue is there which I can compare from the right side experience. Always I try to remove or debulk as much as adenoid tissue because I am afraid that the wand may deceive anytime. Now this side adenoid tissue. First I am lifting the adenoid tissue, then I am ablating those. You can clearly see the superior boundary nicely. Then don't keep the wand on one place, slightly keep on rotating. Otherwise too much thermal energy at single point may cause thermal damage and charring. Same principle, same principle, always control even the minor bleeding, and always elevate or retract the adenoid tissue, then apply the ablation, identifying the normal structures. Now new bleeding point has opened up, no problem. So do a gentle suction, irrigate, suction, point identified, then shoot. This will stop. I am able to stop, and this side adenoid also is at the same level. Now I am seeing through the 70-degree nasal endoscope through the oral cavity. And just I am trying to see if I still need to do, so I decided now to leave it. Thank you for watching ENT channel. If you are still seeing this video, please subscribe.